Hello again. So I'm going to finish off my January nature journal in this next video. So I'll talk you through the bits and pieces I've done on this page that I worked on my last video, and we've also got a few more pages that I've begun working on and I need to finish off, which I didn't get to film because I had a few technical difficulties. So I'll catch you up on that and then we'll finish the rest of the January pages. It is February now. I've had to take a little break because I got full of cold. So I'm also a bit sniffly still, but I'm sure we'll be fine. And yeah, that's it. Let's go. Let's do some fartsying. Yeah. So let's firstly go over some of the additions I made to this January spread in the nature journal. Last time you'll seen me painting these in. I also did some of my writing here as well using the Tom Studio ink and the Lumos dual tip pen. And I've also just added in a few more bits and pieces as well, just in pencil. I had some spare space, so I've just added in a bit of poetry, and I've also added in some pencil arrows. So I'll go into this again at a later stage and just ink those in. I think I want to get a new gold ink for the calligraphy pen for when I'm doing the poetry bits, because my gold ink's gone a bit thick. And then this is actually the beginning page of the nature journal. So I've brush penned in my January title. What I usually do is I leave it until later in the month, and then I take inspiration from what I've done in the nature journal to create this like little wreath. So I'll do that later on at a different date, but I've penned in the brush pen. And then I've started on this page here, which has been inspired by the almanac. And if I just flick to January, it's about the moon phase and some information about the moon. And it also goes through this Ogham calendar, and it gives a tree for every month. So this month I've looked at birch, and I've added that into this page here. You can see I've used my brush pen and I've already inked some bits in. I've got a little bit of space here for some bark. I don't know if I'm going to cut this and put it in, or if I'm going to draw from it. I haven't decided quite yet. I have had a bit of bleeding going on with the ink, so that's interesting, but hey ho. Oh, I've also put in here, I did like a wet on wet method with the watercolour and just dropped in some metallic gold watercolour, so that's quite nice. And then the last page for the January month is going to be a species highlight page, and this one I've decided to do it on hooded crow especially, and then some other corvids that I saw on the walk. We went to Ynys Llanddwyn off Anglesey by Newborough, and we had a little walk around there, and we've seen some hooded crows, so I wanted to do a little bit of writing about that. We also got to see the choughs as well, which I always love seeing, and we saw a raven as well, and they get a big roost of ravens coming in. And a few other things, carrion crow and jackdaw. So I'm going to work on that page today. You'll see here I've already penciled in and then done my fine liner on my illustrations. And I've penciled in kind of where I want my title to go, where I want the titles for each bird to go, and where I'm kind of going to do some of my writing. So I was just trying to plan out a bit more what I was going to do on this page. So let's get stuck in with this one here. So what I think I need to do now is put some colour into what I've drawn here and come up with this bark situation. When I was doing my research into birch, I actually looked at a few of my favourite old books, and also I had a little ID card, and I've used, or I'm going to use, this lovely old book as well. You know, obviously birch isn't in full leaf yet, so I'm just kind of looking at those images there to kind of get an idea of colours if I want to paint any leaves. The other thing I could do is I'm just going to, you know, possibly leave the leaf painting until I actually see it, and I maybe could bring one home and I could colour match it with the paint. That might be quite nice. So I'll focus on the bark here of the birch tree, and I've got a nice reference photo for that on my phone, so I can use that and maybe do something with this bark. Maybe put a section here, maybe paint a section, but I do want to leave a bit for writing as well. And one of the things that I found out about the birch is it has catkins like alder and things, and it has male catkins and it has a female catkin. That's a little bit different to, say, hazel. You'd have a male catkin and then a female flower. So then the female catkins, they turn into the pine cones, like little cones, as the fruiting body. So I found that quite interesting. And also in one of those really old books, it said birch is from the Old English burse, appearing in place names like Birkenhead, meaning headland overgrown with birch. And if you can't tell from my accent, I am from the Wirral, and I used to live not far from Birkenhead, so I just found that was quite interesting and wanted to pop that in. Part of the nature journaling is how you connect with nature, so it's nice to put in things that are personal to you. So that's quite nice. Right, let's get on with it. Just using my Winsor & Newton watercolour palette for the birch tree, starting off with a little bit of Payne's grey and then moving on to some of the browns, and same again really for the piece of bark here, building it up from light to dark with the watercolour paint, using, you know, sepia, Van Dyke brown, and then just dropping in a tiny little bit of sap green towards the end to get that little bit of algae on there. I say algae, it's probably a lichen. I think what I'll do is I'll paint the leaves when and the catkins when I actually see them on the trees. This leaf as well, I've put a line down the centre. I want to do it in a nice leafy green, and then also when the leaves start to turn and senesce and go into the orangey colour, so I'll do half. I might also do that with the top of the tree as well, and start for, say, the top section, put some green in, and then over on this section I might put some orange in, so you see the tree throughout its life cycle and the phenology of the leaves. So I might do that. So with that being said, I've smudged, oh wow. I might leave as is there and then go to the next page. I might add onto the video a little clip and some photos from our walk that day on the 25th of January when we went to Llanddwyn Island off Newborough on Anglesey. And one of the highlights on that day was seeing the hooded crow. So a little bit of background to hooded crows on Anglesey as far as my history with them goes. When I did my residential volunteering at South Stack, this is going back quite a few years, there was one single male hanging about in McDonald's car park in Holyhead. So it's probably come from Ireland. They do have a population in Ireland, and it's probably come over on one of the boats on the ships, and it was just hanging around there on its own. last year when we went and visited Newborough, on the beach there, I saw a hooded crow, just a single one, and it was with some carrion crows. And it did look like a proper hooded crow. Could have been a hybrid though. So hooded crows can mate with carrion crows and produce a hybrid species. Now these are probably gonna, I need to do a bit more research, but I'm guessing they're going to be a bit like a mule, in which case they can't reproduce. Need to do more research into that. So that this year, walking through like the woods in Newborough on our way to get onto the island, again spotted a hooded crow in some trees, and it looked like a proper hooded crow to me, lots of silvery grey on it. It was joined by another hooded crow that didn't seem as it might not have been a proper one. It could have been more than likely a hybrid. And then a carrion crow came and landed next to the hooded crow and was preening it and nuzzled into it and was preening its feathers. Further on down the path, we saw another hybrid hooded crow. Definitely a hybrid this time, with a bit of mottled feathers, so you didn't see that really like silvery grey back. So I'm guessing this could be a different hooded crows coming over on the ships from Ireland, interbreeding with carrion crows. But I do like to think that the single male lonely hooded crow that was hanging out at McDonald's car park in Holyhead, I'd like to think that he's found a carrion crow wife, and they've brought up a little brood of carrion crow times carrion crow hybrid babies. So that's my like little thing with that. Also, we saw and heard the ravens. They do this like crunk noise, and they have a big roost there of ravens, but we only saw one. And of course, we saw the beautiful choughs as well whilst we were on the island. I think that they've started breeding, or nesting rather, somewhere close, maybe on the island or somewhere close to the island. That's Ynys Llanddwyn, which is off Newborough Forest. They do have a stronghold in South Stack, so that's the top end of Anglesey, and they nest along the cliffs there. There's a couple of breeding pairs. So yeah, one of my favourite birds is the chough. And then I've just added in jackdaw and carrion crow, just to kind of give a little bit of a page. Yeah, so I'll crack on with that and get that one done now as well. So I gave it a light wash of Payne's Grey with a tiny tint of indigo in there as well as the base colour, and I'm just slowly building up the colours from light to dark, just using the tip of my paintbrush for some of those details, just slowly building it up. You can also use that lifting technique to show a bit of highlights. No! What have I done? I made a mistake. I fixed the mistake. You can see those colours getting built up now, and onto the very delicate beak as well. Black birds and black feathers, I think, are the hardest thing to paint. Yeah, definitely could do with more practice. onto the carrion crow there, I've used more of a purple tone for the wash at the back, just to let those colours come through the feathers. And then we're onto the chuff, and you can see here more that wash that I've just been saying, which I've gone for more of a red tone, and then you build up the darker feathered colours on top of that. Doing a bit more detail with the finer brush there. And then onto the jackdaw, and again I've used a wash for the background. I think that was more of an indigo tone, bit of a bluier silvery tone for those silver kind of parts. Using the detail brush to do that bit of detail. And then onto the raven, again I did that layering technique, and then just finishing off with the detail brush. I'm going to write out in my brush pen, my Tom's Studio Lumos, the title, and then I'm going to, with my calligraphy pen and the ink, do my species titles, and I've got my Welsh translation from my handy book from Yellow, and then I'll do some research and find some bits of information to fill in there. So this is where I'm stopping filming for the night, and you will see the complete finished pages now. So this is a little look through the complete pages for my January nature journal. I've completed that reef that we mentioned with some snowdrops. The chilled air smelled of wood smoke, of distances and passing time. Frost glimmered on the morning fields. Crows called across the pewter afternoons. A poem by James Carlos Blake.